What's up, guys? Subzeric here, back for not another VOD review. Today's going to be a meta overview video just talking about how to approach the current patch, how to climb as efficiently as possible, because as you can see, I went on a big climb this weekend. Apologies for not streaming, but I really wanted to just sit down, lock in, play my best TFT as possible, climb, without the distraction of chat or anything like that. Went from D4, basically 0 LP, straight to Masters 22 LP, so a nice 400 LP climb on the way up to Masters, and I'm sitting pretty in Masters right now. I don't know if this is going to be enough to sit for the Cup snapshot, or I guess it's called Trials. Everything is called Trials now. If it is, awesome. If not, worst case, I can queue it up, and I mean, you can't drop below Masters 0 LP, so that's pretty cool. But on this climb, I feel like I learned a lot about the patch. I feel like early on here, something really clicked for me that I want to share with all of you, because I think it's really, really important toward understanding how to approach this patch. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are feeling quite lost on this patch, or like this patch just like sucks and it's a lottery patch. And I'll go back to something that, if you guys know the player Garchomp Pro, he's a very high elo player, he's taken a lot of TFT sets on and off, and I was talking to him once, and he said, never in the history of TFT has there been a true lottery patch where your score is just completely random. Always, 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 the best players, the cream of the crop, rise to the top, they find an edge, no matter if it is something like this patch where it's these crazy, can you win out versus, save HP, which we'll talk about, or if it's, a very, very standard TFT patch. So with that, I'll kind of get into my meta overview and my thoughts on the patch. The big thing that I think really clicked, because you can see I was struggling pretty hard in this little stretch here. I promoted to Diamond, had a nice little win streak up here, and then was kind of stuck for a while here. A nice little like 10-game streak here, just hovering around low Diamond, a few losses even at 0 LP, which felt pretty rough. And so, I ended my stream, I guess this was Friday, and then, I woke up the next day, and actually, even after my stream, I did some VOD review. I did some VOD review of Marcel P, who is very, very high rank on the server. He was rank 6 when I VOD reviewed him. He's probably, still somewhere up around there. And one of the things that I noticed from the way that Marcel played the game is just, he was really thinking through on 2-1 at the start of the game where the game was going to go. This is something that I've talked about a lot in some other metas, just in general, is kind of like the macro of the TFT game. Where is this game going? And the macro, this patch specifically, it basically boils down to two separate game plans. You can either be the win-out player, the player playing Anima, the player playing Fortune and Strength, the player who's taking a bunch of emblem augments and getting some crazy combination, or you can be the not win out player. If you're the not win out player, that's totally fine. You cannot win out every lobby, but if you are the not win out player, you need to save HP, because what happens in a lot of these games is if you do not save enough HP in the early game, the worst thing that you can do is loss streak as the not win out player, reach stage 4 with something like, 30, 40 HP, and then you rotate into, a guy who's an Anima cash out and they clear you. You rotate into some guy who's like 5 Space Groove Riven 2 Nami 2 and they clear you. And then you just die with an okay board, but you were never meant to be in that spot. If you are going to be in that spot where you cannot win out, then you must be saving HP in the early game. And the first comp that I used to save a ton of HP is this Primordian reroll line, this Koloshia style Primordian reroll. If you look at my match history, we can just scroll through. I think you will probably see it a good amount here. Yep, Primordian reroll there, another reroll there, another Primordian reroll there, solid third, another reroll line here, not Primordian, but another Primordian reroll here, top 2. Playing this, every, maybe like 20% of my games, something like that, maybe even a more on some runs here. This is every other game is a Primordian reroll game. This, in my view, is the perfect line to play when you scout the lobby and I am not going to win out this lobby. I actually have a quick example here, which was one of my games that I played on ladder. So let me pull this up here. Boom. Did that work? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So this was a game here. Started Trade Sector, Seraphims, Feed the Flames. Not great, honestly. None of these options I'm really that excited about. Trade Sector, I think, is, okay here. Let me speed it up a little bit. Roll Electrocharge, roll Cluttered Bind. I opt to end up taking Trade Sector in the spot here. But you can see when I scout the lobby here, there is 2 players who have Anima in at 2-1. 2 Animas, 2-1 here. This means that very likely one of those players is going to be the win out player, that they are going to end up in an insanely strong spot and they are going to win out the lobby. Patient study, money hungry. This person has Legion of Threes, which is a solid augment. They got Challenger from it, but it's not. So that's, it's not amazing, but it's okay. But I know in my spot here that I cannot be the win out player. And I actually do something kind of interesting here, which is something that I, stole from Marcel a little bit here, where I see that there's these 2 anima players in the lobby, and I type in chat here, 2 anima need to int them. What I found is that people, in Diamond and Masters aren't as, willing to do that as people in Challenger. I think people in Challenger are much more willing to say, I must int these anima players so that they, break their streak and so that they do not get on a really good streak. I'm trying to be that player here, but I don't actually end up kind of like successfully doing it. But I do see the Belveth here, and I say, you know what? I need to be the person who is going to play this line. So if I skip just a good bit further here, skip to this, you can see I'm kind of holding some of these Primordian units, get this Primordian board in here with all these upgrades. And here's where I lose the first few fights here, get a win here on 2-3. And from here on out, I need to try to win streak here. This is why you can see I look at, potentially slamming items like Hodge. You can see my items aren't even that amazing for it, but I want to play it anyway because saving HP is of the utmost importance. I actually lose this fight, and I was really frustrated with this loss here, but, it happens. You lose fights sometimes. But you can see we spike the board pretty hard here. We actually end up hitting a Maokai 2 here. We hit the Belveth 2, and this board is just really good at winning this stage here. If you get to a Belveth 2 with at least 2 items, ideally if you're in a crazy spot, 3 items, you are just going to win every single fight stage 3. And winning every single fight stage 3 when there are anima players in the lobby is insanely beneficial here. I think I do end up actually taking branch out. I go for it, and then I hit the Primordian Emblem. I'm like, okay, well, we're definitely playing it from this spot. But, we don't have to, we can actually skip through this stage here. You can see very likely, yep, I win pretty much every fight here, and I'm 87 HP stabilized by the end of this stage. And so you can see here, there's an anima player. They've cashed out Searing Shortbow plus the Tentacle, so they got a 400 stack cash out. They're going to be very strong. It's actually, going to be hard for me to beat them the rest of this stage. And I think the other player, is somewhere down here as well with a very strong board. I'm not going to be the win out player of this lobby, but sitting here, 87 HP win streaking, even stage 4, you can win some of these fights. Just saving that HP is going to put me into a spot where, if I skip forward stage 4, I'm stabilized HP. I even lose these first 2 fights with some pretty rough matchmaking. I think I rotate into, some of these really, really strong players. But you can see as I skip to the end of the stage, 57 HP stabilized here. All these players are hitting, but it doesn't really matter because I've saved this much HP. I have a strong enough board that I can win these fights later. And so, as we get further and further in the game, these players start to chip off enough HP. You can also scam a lot of fights if you know how to position this comp. Really just try to, oftentimes, I really try to get the enemy frontline to wrap around Rek'Sai. I feel like the more that I've done it, I actually like Rek'Sai in this spot here. The problem is I had even shroud this game, so I kind of had to put it onto Rek'Sai here. But yeah, just scamming as many fights as possible. This is a fight versus a rogue board that I actually end up winning. Like, this fight wins so many fights this comp wins so many fights randomly that you would not expect it to win. For a relatively cheap board, you can also see that I push levels very aggressively here. I'm very, very broke here, but it doesn't matter, right? You just want to get your upgrades onto this board. You want to get, the Kindred onto this board. You want to get Kai'Sa onto this board. Even, Morgana I have as my just kind of random +1 on this board because I don't have any of the other stuff to play here. But you can see I lose fights here, but stabilize at an easy top 4, and then I actually end up coasting into a top 3. And look, you're not going to win out the lobby with this comp very, very often, but that's okay. The anima player ends up winning the lobby as they're supposed to, honestly, because they are the anima player. I try to do some weird positioning shenanigans here. I think I do end up just... Actually, this fight ends up being low-key really close, but I do end up losing and going 3rd there, which is fine. So that's the first thing, is understanding when you do not have this anima opener, when you do not have some crazy, branching out, spreading roots start, you can just be the player who stabilizes hard stage, really stage 3, stabilizes on a decent amount of HP, and then coast to a top 3. That is really, really important this patch. I think that's honestly why, if you look at Koloshia's match history, why he climbed so much is because this playstyle is actually really, really beneficial in this patch. Just the saving HP playstyle, because not everyone can win out. Only one person can win out. And so if there's multiple people who are in these like disgustingly really strong spots, then oftentimes one will end up killing off the other, and then you can just coast to like this was a top 3. So that's the first thing, is just understanding how to save HP. other lines that can really end up saving a lot of HP, there's not another really good 2-cost reroll line, honestly. You have Stargazer as well, which at least allows you to, kind of stabilize around like 1 and 2 costs. So that's another line that I think is really, really nice for saving HP, where you're very, very often going to win streak all of stage 3 with something like a Jax 2 and a TF3 or a Talon 3. There's been a lot of talk about this Stargazer line and like who do you actually like to itemize the best in this line. I am definitely playing this variation of it where we are, playing for the Talon and Gwen Rost as opposed to getting into for Fate Weaver, though you can eventually play for Fate Weaver on top of this board. But this is a really nice stabilizing force on 7. I will say, Talon feels really, really, really good to play around in a few Stargazers specifically. Here, let me pull those up. Okay, so my thoughts on all the Stargazers. The Serpent feels amazing to play Talon in. This is the one where you do want to play around Talon absolutely every single time. Why? Because it gives you extra damage over time on his damage over time, which is really, really good on a unit like Talon that's slowly dealing damage. This is actually worse on a unit like Twisted Fate, who does a lot of burst damage, so oftentimes his card will just kill a unit. So this means that, that extra 25% damage is essentially wasted if he kills a unit with this card. Talon does his damage more gradually, so the Serpent is really, really good here. If you guys haven't seen kind of like Talon itemization, this is often what people go for. Looks really, really nice on him, honestly. It just means that he's jumping around a ton. He is slowly doing damage. Also, think about this fact that you're playing for this giant Jax with a very often, something like this. The Gunblade has really, really good synergy with the Gargoyle here. The Jax with a ton of extra resists. Every point of HP that you're healing onto him is very, very valuable. So that's really nice. There's actually 2 paths that you can go on this comp from here if you are itemizing Talon, is you can itemize TF as a duo carry, or you can itemize Gwen as a duo carry once you reach her. Every time I have seen a Gwen 3, she has absolutely popped off. The problem is you can't really set out to play for Gwen from the start. Usually you have to use TF as an early item holder. And the nice thing is that he can farm you gold as well once you reach TF3. So I'm usually playing Talon duo carry with TF and then Jax here. This is quite important in stuff like the Serpent. If you read the Serpent, Stargazers are the ones who get the extra damage and the extra poison damage. Caitlyn, very bad to itemize in the Serpent because she isn't benefiting from the Stargazer almost at all. Gwen in a similar way. The only thing that the non-Stargazers get is the 5% durability. And that's the thing to keep in mind with all these Stargazers is look at what does the non-Stargazer get, and that can kind of guide you to who to itemize. The Medallion, for example, all allies get the damage amp. Doesn't matter if you're a Stargazer or not. This one feels really good to play for stuff like Caitlyn 3, play for stuff like Gwen 3, and then be able to itemize them because they're getting this benefit as well. The Mountain, another one that feels good because, the extra units just end up getting the spats and playing for them. So all 3 of these, the Medallion, the Mountain, and the Serpent, these all feel very, very good to play towards, though you have to keep in mind, the ones that don't buff up the other non-Stargazers, you want to play towards them less so. In the Serpent, I'm almost never itemizing Caitlyn unless I have to. Scroll down a bit here. The Altar, amazing as well. This is one of my favorite ones to play Stargazer in. You do want to get that Stargazer in early. 2-1 is not a necessity because the later you get into the game, that's actually when more of the units are dying. But 2-1 is ideal so that you can start stacking this up. This is another one where the Stargazers gain a lot more of the benefits. They actually get that, huge altar bonus. So this is another one where you do want to play towards stuff like the Talon, the Twisted Fate, as opposed to playing towards like Caitlyn and things like that. The Boar, I didn't play this a single time. I think if you have an open, a really, really strong early upgraded Stargazer board, you can play towards this. Aside from that, I don't think it's that crazy. The Huntress never played this. I think this one's quite bad, actually. And the Fountain, another really, really rough one for TF reroll. It's just the extra mana gen is not very good. So yeah, this is one that you should, not really play towards. So yeah, this is another example of a line that you can use to stabilize, save HP. But what if you are the person who wants to win out? A few things. Anima starts, right? If you start the game on a loss streak, you should always look to be playing Anima. What you can do is you can loss streak all of stage 3, even without Anima, and then just hold any Anima units you find. A very common play pattern is you loss streak up to, stage 2 Carousel, and then off Carousel you grab an Aurora or an Alawi, and then you have Anima, maybe not even necessarily at 2-5, and maybe you lose the next 2, and then get Anima in at 3-1, because you can roll for Anima to get it in at 3-1. It's very reasonable, if you're on a full loss streak, that you should roll for Anima on 3-1, because if you lose the first 5 fights and then lose the next 5 after that, even if you just get anima in at 3-1, even if you haven't had anima in at all, you just lose the first 5 fights, get anima in at 3-1, lose the next 5 fights, you will have a 300 anima cash out. Which is really, really good. The 300 cash outs are the ones that get you to those tier 2 items, which are the ones that end up winning you games. To talk through the items real quick, the big things to know is that Battle Bunny Crossbow is the best one. I've talked about this already. 3.0 average, if you throw it onto Xayah and you throw an IE onto her, it goes up into the 1s. Always, always, always play this into Xayah. You can stabilize on the Jinx 3 for a few rounds if you get the cash out like this one. You can play her on the Jinx for a little while, but you must build IE and you must stabilize around Xayah. The tank ones, Ice Blast, Lioness, and Radiant Field, these are all just solid to play on any tank, ideally the Mighty Mech. And then the other ones are okay. The Slicers, the Echoing Batblade, like the Searing Shortbow, these ones are all right. I would, if you are lost streaking, you are very likely to get extra reforgers. I would, if I'm playing towards these lines, very much consider reforging stuff like the Slicers and the Echoing Batblades, so that you can try to hit the tank ones if you are playing, anima into Mighty Mech. So that is just kind of anima. Now, I will say, the more that I played this patch, when I started the patch, I really thought at the beginning it was going to be anima's kind of rough because there's all these people lost streaking. There's all these people, trying to grief your streak. I don't actually want to play anima that much. What I realized is that, one, sometimes even if people do grief your streak, you can just lost streak again from there and still reach a 300 cash out, which is that's the power of anima. And two, as we've gotten further in the patch, fewer and fewer people, I think, are playing full open. More and more people are trying to play real boards, which means you can actually get away with anima. Every single time I'm playing anima, I'm essentially full opening, but I will do something. Imagine, this back row here is my bench here. Every single time I play anima, what I do is I'll play my 3 anima during the round, and I'll trap the Briar in here. With this is the actual positioning, but imagine this row is my bench. So I'll trap in my Briar. And then immediately after that fight, I will bench those 3 units and then try to field a regular board here. So, say I field like this board, and then I leave this as my bench here, and then try to crowd these units over here. What that does is it makes it very easy if someone's scouting your board to not notice that you have anima, because you actually take anima out. The anima little indicator that shows how many stacks you have gets taken out, so people have no clue how many stacks you have. And this can actually trick a lot of people who are just kind of like lazily scouting the lobby. So then, you play this board for a second, and then, a few seconds before the fight starts, sell all these guys off, and boom, once again, we are, fielding this board, and, we're trapping in the Briar again like this. So you need to be doing this. It's just like free to discourage other people from inting you, which people will int you. But if you do this, it makes it a lot harder for them to int you. Even just makes it harder for people to plan around you when they don't know what you're doing. The other thing that I will say is sometimes if you're lost streaking on anima, you can do something like, okay, I'm going to play 3 anima, and I'm also even going to play 2 timebreaker. Wow, I'm going to get a ton of resources out here. You can do this if you are very confident no one else in the lobby is going to grief you, and you can even, play strongest board a little bit here. If you see anyone else who you think there is any chance they're going to grief you, you must sell everything and just field 3 anima. And that is true for stage 3 as well. I would much rather 5 loss anima reach my 300 stack cash out and be on 1 life than, break my streak on accident and all of a sudden I'm on 2 or 3 lives, but I've cashed out, a 100 cash or a 200 cash. Those are pretty much useless if you look at the trait table, right? These get you these 200 caches get you these garbage tier 1 anima items that just don't do anything. Honestly, they're just not, these are less than, single items on these units. So be very open to just full opening in spots like this. One thing that you can even do is if I'm anima on stage 3 or on stage 2 and the other player's anima on stage 2, I can say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm about to, fight the anima player. We're both trying to, clump versus them. I don't know if I'm going to win or lose here. I'm just going to sell my Aurora here, and I'm just going to field Jinx and Briar here. And I'm not going to have anima in for that round, but what's going to happen is after I fight them, I'm going to keep my loss streak. They're going to break their streak, and they're not going to be able to play anima anymore, very likely, and I'm going to be able to get anima back in. And all anima cares about is your loss streak. It does not care about necessarily when you get anima in versus out. It just cares about how many fights you're losing. That's why you can 5 loss and then fit anima in later and still get a lot of value of it. So be very, very open to selling even, 3 anima so that you can keep your loss streak against other people. The other thing to do is this kind of positioning. I completely screwed up a game where I should have done this positioning. The idea is, a lot of people will try to trap like this. They will try to trap like this. And if you just do your exact same Anima Trap versus them like this, it becomes a 50-50 of who ends up winning the fight. What you can do is something like this. What does this do? The idea is this is going to make it so both Jinx and Aurora have to walk up here. I think actually, yeah, I'd rather do this positioning. This makes Jinx and Aurora walk up here because they actually don't have a unit in their range. They cannot reach this Aurora here. So Jinx and Aurora are going to walk up here. They're going to go walk, walk. They're both going to see this Aurora and walk around, and all 3 units are going to end up aggroing onto your Aurora and killing her, and then they can aggro onto your Jinx and kill her. This focus fire allows you to actually lose the fight, declumping them with their backline and you know, keeping your loss streak. There's actually a player who I played against who I should have done this versus. I did not do this versus them. We 50-50'd, and I lost the 50-50 as I always do, honestly. GG's, unlucky. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Yeah, when you are playing this, just play this. You can play this into Mighty Mech. I think it's very good to play into Mighty Mech if you get any of the tank items. You can very easily win out games from there. I certainly have games in my match history where you can see I just, you know, got some cash outs and cashed out Mighty Mech and won the lobby, and it was fantastic. There is also this other line, which I think the last game I played on it was a bot 4. So, I mean, rest in peace me if I can find it. But yes, this line as well. This one that I showed, this Urgot, Aurora, and Maokai line. This line is also very, very good from these style cash outs. You can play this. The really nice thing is that, you know, Urgot can use any kind of damage items. This is also really good from stuff like Forged in Strength loss streak. This game was actually a Forged in Strength 300 Anima cash out, but sadly, this Kai Watanabe guy hit 3 3-star 4 costs. I won the lobby and I died. And I was contested, man. This guy contested. This Casper Wu guy contested me. I didn't even see them because he had his like thingy off. But it was Casper Wu contesting me in this line. Oh my god. It's okay. It's okay. It happens. But this is another very, very good line to play from Anima. Okay. The last thing that I want to talk about, emblems are really important. You should be open to taking the emblem augments every single chance that you can get, just because there are so many solid win out options, stuff like Space Groove emblem that can easily allow you to win out lobbies, just so many broken emblems in general. I do not have time to talk through all of these. I did do this in my weekly group coaching session, which the VOD is available for you guys, you know, if you do subscribe whenever you want to, Tacticians University. You can see on my Metafy in the description down below, but there are a lot of very, very good emblems that you can play towards. Just almost everything. Honestly, there are only a few like pretty bad misses but aside from that, you should be taking our emblems. I think everybody knows this. The last thing I do want to talk about is Fast 9 stuff this patch, because I think Fast 9 was my white whale. You know, it was very, very hard for me to do Fast 9. You can see actually, you know, if I just throw Vex into the filter here, I get quite frustrated with Fast 9. You can see this kind of streak of like, I went Fast 9 and went 5th. I went Fast 9 and went 5th. I went Fast 9 and went 6th here. Even this game went Fast 9 and went 3rd. Try to go Fast 9, went 8th. Not a lot of good performances, but, you know, some in there. And my last, you know, couple of Fast 9 games actually went really, really well. This one where I went Fast 9 and hit a Master Yi 3, and then this game where I went Fast 9 and just won out. A few things to keep in mind about Fast 9. This board, which is this board here, the idea is that there's a ton of traits on this board that get fit in really, really easily. You get to play around the 4 Vanguard front line here. You get to play around Bard, Vex, and Sona as, you know, duo carries, and Blitzcrank as a duo carry as well. It's a fantastic board, and this is like the default Fast 9 board that I'm playing towards. One big thing to keep in mind with this board is you need to hit Nunu 2. It's really hard to hit Nunu 2 because this guy is very, very contested. So what I've realized is the more econ that you can have, you know, even if it's taking like triple econ aug or, you know, doing something crazy so that you can actually send it on 9 very, very early. If I pull up my last Fast 9 game, all right, we're in to my Fast 9 game, 4-2, a couple of really, really important things. I actually did consider playing Timebreaker here, this game. You should, every single chance you get, consider playing Timebreaker on stage 4 when you are Fast 9 in a very, very healthy spot like this. You know, I 100 streaked the entire game from a, you know, a very, very cool spot here. You should almost always in this spot consider playing Timebreaker. The only reason I did not is because I high rolled an early Vex. And so I said, you know what, I can actually play this Mogul's Mail, you know, Poppy. It should have been a Lowy, but I was a little bit slow moving items over. Plus this Vex here, and actually farm a lot of gold and actually win a lot of fights with this board. So I opted not to do that. But you'll see something kind of interesting is that, you know, I win this fight. I think, you know, I probably like lose this fight or something like that here. And I'm actually not that rich in this spot after Carousel here, but I look at actually leveling and rolling very, very aggressively in a spot where it's 4 or 5 here, because I'm scouting the rest of the lobby and I'm knowing that it's actually gonna be really tough for me to find Nunu here. So in a normal game, where there are, strong 5-cost tanks, you would actually just chill for a few rounds here. You would chill, go on 5-1, you'd have a ton of gold, it would be fine. But I gotta roll now. I gotta roll and try to find this Nunu 2 now. And you can see, I roll down, find a lot of stuff, and I instantly find this Nunu 2. If I wait longer than 4 or 5 here, it's very likely that all these Nunus are going to be out of the pool, and I'm not going to be able to play the game. So really consider, if you're going fast 9, doing stuff like, look, I took just gained 21 gold in this spot, just a kind of a crummy econ augment, because I wanted to actually make it 2-9 fast enough that I could play towards this line, hit the Nunu 2, because this line with the Nunu 2 versus without Nunu 2 is night and day. You can see once I reach this board where I have this Nunu 2, the Nunu is just getting multiple casts off a fight. I get the Protector's Vow on him, which is very, very valuable. And he's just sitting here. He's just an unkillable tanky front lane. I don't even have 4 Vanguard in because I can't find this stupid Blitzcrank because he's so contested. But with Fast 9, what I've learned is the earlier that you can roll, the better. This is something like 4 or 5 ideally. If you cannot, 4 7, slash 5-1. At the latest, because you need to pick up these Nunus. Because if you do not pick up these Nunus and you get stuck on Nunu 1, you are not going to be able to play the board. So only really playing Fast 9 when you are in these very, very confident spots. I mean, I 100 streaked to this game with a Gambler's Blade, Mogul's Mail. I mean, it was beautiful. This early game just served to me on a silver platter. And so in those type of spots, okay, we can go Fast 9. In other type of spots, you have to be very careful about it. But it does obviously cap out very high. The other thing that I've learned is just, be careful what items you build, but also don't be careful. You need to make slams to save streak, but you also need to, get to real damage items onto, Vex. This JG Guardbreaker plus attack speed is really, really nice. Then some damage items here, a Protector's Vow onto Nunu. I mean, my items ended up working out pretty perfectly this game, though I sadly did reforge the Gamblers and got Evelyn's Instinct, which ended up actually going to Blitzcrank. Was pretty chill, and I was able to win out the lobby here. This was not my 3-star 4-cost game, but it was still a, a very, very good game. So that's another thing that you want to have in your pocket, is being able to Fast 9 in spots like this, and understand how to win out from there. That's really it, I think. Let me check my notes here. Yeah, I would say just in general, it all goes back to scouting the lobby early and understanding, am I the win out player, or am I the player who just needs to stabilize and save HP? If you ask yourself that question every lobby and you play the right one, either be the win out player with Anima or emblems, or something crazy, some broken prismatic or expedition like silver augment. I guess lastly, just real quick, I can just, talk through some broken augments really quick. Obviously, can't talk through everything, but everything in my head that is like basically an insta-click. Branching out is really, really, really good. Bonk is actually quite solid for tempo, but, not insta-pick. Expedition, this is just an insta-click. Getting radiant items is just absolutely broken. Patience is a virtue, allowing you to play a lot of the reroll options, completely broken. Slightly magic roll is slightly magic, very, very strong. There are obviously some downside options, but still really, really good. I think for silvers, that's really most of it. Don't ever click this 1-2-3 augment. It gives you 6 gold. I mean, what are we doing here? And my commander, another, just you must be clicking this augment. Anything in gold that gives you emblems, aura farming, as well as, something that can kind of, put you into a really good spot. You can still go for 3-star 4-cost with stuff like Epic Roll Down. I've seen it a lot, so be careful with that, but I don't think it's that broken. No Scout, No Pivot, another really, really good one. No Scout, No Pivot, and the other, the 1-cost reroll one, both amazing to just kind of lock you into a really good spot. My last game that actually ended up promoting me to Masters was just a early learnings Teemo reroll, and I just started the game with a Teemo 2 with the Gwinsu, grabbed early learnings, bada bing, bada boom. It was the easiest game of my life. I mean, just an easy top 2, and I ended up losing out to a crazy Samira board with this this Double Trouble 2 tanky thing, which, by the way, 2 tanky, another really, really good augment. If you have the spot for it, you got to be a little bit careful, but I do think it's very, very strong. Urf, another really, really good one for the spats. Onto the prismatics, just to talk through them real quick. What are the ones that really jump out at me? None of these first few. Forged in Strength, another insta-click, just 4 artifacts is absolutely broken. Living Forge, really, really good as well. Really, really good for some of the Primordian stuff as well. Level Up. Another thing that I haven't talked about at all, which I could do a whole video on, is you see the gods and you make your game plan a little bit around that. So saying, okay, you know what? This is a Varus portal. I know there's good odds I can get tiny dupes or, 3-cost shops, so I can play more into 3-cost reroll, that kind of stuff. It's straightforward, but important. Pris Ticket, quite strong for those kind of rerolls. Shimmer Scale Essence, very, very good. Subscription Service, I think, is fine, but not amazing. Trait tree, gives you emblems, stuff like that. Yeah, I think I hate wise spending every time I take this augment I bought for. But yeah, that is everything that I have to say about this patch. Honestly, I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to ask me any questions down below. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching. As always, check out my Twitch, my Metafy. If you want to know how to, do very well, check out Metafy, individual coaching, group coaching, whatever you're interested in. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching as always. Bye-bye.